सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Today is Shivaji Jayanti. Those who are in Bombay, in Maharashtra, we all must owe our gratitude to this Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, who's created this land, freed this land from the clutches of rulers, etc. So today is his Jayanti. A story that comes to my mind is that his guru was Swami Ramdas. Now Swami Ramdas once had a meeting with Guru Hargobind Singh. Guru Hargobind Singh was the sixth Guru of the Sikhs. And his question to Hargobind Singh was that you are a spiritual saint, you are a successor of Guru Nanak, who talks about peace and tranquility and spirituality, and you are carrying a sword, you are having an army, you are called a king. So how do you explain this dichotomy? He said, saintliness is within, kingliness is without. So when you are doing whatever you are doing outside, because he was fighting the Mughals, etc., when you are outside and fighting a battle for what is required to be done for your people, then you are a king, then you have to do what your job is. But that saintliness is that which is coming within your heart. In fact, today I read a story on Facebook about somebody in Andhra Pradesh who bought a farm, and he wanted somebody to sort of do the Vastu for that farm's interiors. So he brought a Vastu expert, a 30-40-year-old expert of Vastu. And then while he was driving to the farmhouse, he was going slow and steady and safely, and then he allowed other vehicles to overtake. So the Vastu expert asked him, why are you going so slow? He said, others who are going faster may be in a hurry, they may be having some urgent work, so let them go, no problem. And then as he was nearing the village, he halted at a small lane. Just before a lane he halted and saw that there was a small boy coming very laughingly, playingly with a stick in his hand, and he was crossing the road. Even after that boy crossed, he didn't immediately take off with the vehicle. Another boy came. He said, I know for a fact that when a boy is going like that, gleefully playing, there will be another friend of his who will be following him. And then they went to the farm. As he entered the farm, he saw that there were some birds flying out of that mango tree in the farm. So he told the Vastu expert, you please wait here, because I think there must be somebody who's stealing mangoes from that tree, and we should not go and scare them, because they may fall down from the tree. If they want some mangoes, let them take and go away. So the Vastu expert said, you don't need any Vastu expert here, because you are a epitome of positivity, of saintliness in your own heart. You don't need any Vastu expert, because Vastu is only for negativities. Negativity will not come into this place because of the kind of positive energy that is in you. So this is just a couple of stories that came to my mind. I thought I'll share with you. Now last week we were at a stage where we understood what is Dukkha Samayoga Viyogaha. That is, when we are wedded to our joys and sorrows, there is a wedding, and then after that, when we divorce ourselves from there, no more are we connected with the objects, the experiences, the emotions, the thoughts, which we are connecting through our body, mind and intellect. No more we are connected with that, because sorrows and joys that we experience, they are all originating from our body, mind and intellect. So as a personality, I will identify with my joys and sorrows. That is very obvious for me. But the moment I am divorced from that, from my body, mind and intellect, the viyoga, the separation happens, and I climb higher, and that separation is necessary for me to grow higher. This is what we understood. So I will just explain this in a small slide, which you will probably be able to relate to. Now this is a slide of a space shuttle. Now if you see, the space shuttle needs to be fired. For that there is a rocket, and there are some boosters which enable it to take off from the ground and go up. As they go up, these boosters are dropped, and as they little more go up, the shuttle also goes away, because then the rocket will allow this shuttle to go into space. That is the purpose. So as you climb higher, the supports that were required for you to fire yourself upwards, those supports you drop. Just similar to that, as you climb higher, the support of the body, mind, intellect, which is required for you to fire yourself up higher, that you will have to separate from. Only then the rocket can fire itself, because so long as you remain attached to that, then that attachment will hold you back. You cannot fly higher, you cannot go into the space. That is the analogy that I wanted to bring across. So we will take it forward. Now, the higher power is the one that illumines us, we understood. So you cannot see that power. Within the limitation of my intellect, of my body, I cannot see that power. You need to climb the intellect to see the highest principle in operation. For example, even in this rocket, you cannot see space from down below. You need to climb through your body, mind, intellect into space to see space itself. I gave you the example last time of that flashlight, that if you were to remove the battery of the flashlight in that darkness, you can't see who's the maker of that flashlight. So that power is required for the flashlight to be in operation. So the power is not something which is an object outside, it is something which is inside. So you don't need that flashlight to see yourself, because you're holding the flashlight. So you know for a fact that you are there behind the flashlight. So you know that I am always there, because there is none other than you who's holding the flashlight. That you is the power which is enabling that to happen. So you don't need that. That is another way of understanding it. So before we move ahead, I want to just hold a 1 minute meditation session like how we did last time. So I request all of you to sit straight with your back erect and close your eyes. Don't allow any external sounds to disturb you. Don't allow any smells to disturb you. Just observe the breath as it is hitting your upper lip and going. Just don't do anything. Just observe that breath. Just observe the breath as it is coming in and hitting your upper lip. Don't do anything. Don't try to breathe. Just let the breath come as it is. So in this process, in this short process, you can relax now. In this short process, we realize that there is something which is happening, and we call it that this is what is happening. What? That you are understanding that principle in operation. Because it cannot be explained by the intellect. There is a limitation in language, there is a limitation in communication. It is something that has to be experienced. So with this understanding, we will take our journey of meditation, understanding of meditation forward. So I am now going to be playing verse 24 to 34 of chapter 6.
संकल्प प्रभवान् कामान् त्यक्त्वा सर्वान् शेषतः मनसैवेन्द्रियग्रामं विनियम्य समन्ततः शनैः शनैरुपरमेद् बुद्ध्या धृतिगृहीतया आत्मसंस्थं मनः कृत्वा न किञ्चिदपि चिन्तयेत् यतो यतो निश्चलति मनश्चञ्चलमस्थिरम् ततस्ततो नियम्यैतदात्मन्येव वशं नयेत् प्रशान्तमनसं ह्येनं योगिनं सुखमुत्तमम् उपैति शान्तरजसं ब्रह्मभूतमकल्मषम् युञ्जन्नेवं सदात्मानं योगी विगतकल्मषः सुखेन ब्रह्म संस्पर्शमत्यन्तं सुखमश्नुते सर्वभूतस्थमात्मानं सर्वभूतानि चात्मनि ईक्षते योगयुक्तात्मा सर्वत्र समदर्शनः यो मां पश्यति सर्वत्र सर्वं च मयि पश्यति तस्याहं न प्रणश्यामि स च मे न प्रणश्यति सर्वभूतस्थितं यो मां भजत्येकत्वमास्थितः सर्वथा वर्तमानोऽपि स योगी मयि वर्तते आत्मौपम्येन सर्वत्र समं पश्यति योऽर्जुन सुखं वा यदि वा दुःखं स योगी परमो मतः अर्जुन उवाच योऽयं योगस्त्वया प्रोक्तः साम्येन मधुसूदन एतस्याहं न पश्यामि चञ्चलत्वात् स्थितिं स्थिराम् चञ्चलं हि मनः कृष्ण प्रमाथि बलवदृढम् तस्याहं निग्रहं मन्ये वायोरिव सुदुष्करम्.
So we start off by saying how do we do this? How is it that we take it forward? How do I climb over this? To begin with, I need to give up all my desires that are born out of sankalpa. Sankalpa meaning which are created by the fancy of my mind. Not all desires. Because there are desires which are required for me for my day-to-day living, which are required for my work, which are required for me to grow in this life itself. So they are okay. But those which are by the fancy of my mind, those that are coming from my existing imprints or my existing inclinations which are there as it is in my personality, that I have to climb over by my own work. But if I'm getting a desire for a new object, something which is not there, coming out of a fancy, let me explain this. I'm going for shopping. My friend calls up just as I'm leaving. He says, where are you going? I said, I'm going to R-City. I want to buy, this thing, pullover. So I'm just going to buy a pullover. So he says, in R-City there is a new shop. They are selling one beautiful set of shoes. So-and-so shop is there. You go. You should buy that. So I go there. What did I go for? I went for buying a pullover. Now I remember the conversation of my friend. He says that in so-and-so shop there is this new shoes that has come that I should go and buy. Now I end up seeing the shoes first. I have not even gone to buy the pullover. I end up seeing the shoes first. I end up buying the shoes first. I liked it, I bought it. It is not my desire. It is a desire born which came out of a phone call that came to me just as I was leaving. And then I go to that pullover shop. I didn't like it. This is not what I wanted. I come back. When I come back home, I wonder, what is this? What did I do? I didn't go to buy shoes. I went to buy pullover. I didn't buy my pullover. And I bought this shoes. This is what is the desires these are that are born out of sankalpa. So this is what you need to drop. So I will give you an example from that movie 3 Idiots. Our friend Madhavan, his interest was in wildlife photography, and Amir Khan tells him that your interest is in wildlife photography. What are you doing in engineering? You have written 1 year ago a letter to your mentor, somebody who wants you want to be your mentor. And you have written a letter and you have not posted because of the fear of your father, because your father wants you to do engineering. So you are now doing engineering because it is born out of a sankalpa of your father. It is not born out of your own tendency. This is what we need to drop. So now the question is, how do I know if my desire is my own desire or is it borrowed from something? Whatever you want to do as the desire is popping in your mind, understand that it is borrowed. You drop it. Your own desire will come up by itself because it is its own nature. Whether it is your work, like for example, even that pullover, you needed it, so it will come by its own nature. For example, I can sing, so I sing. But if you ask me to dance, I have 2 left feet. I can't dance for nuts. My wife, she is very good at dancing. She of course sings also very well, but she is very good at dancing. So if both of us dance, she will be dancing, I will be having 2 left feet. This is bound to happen because it is not my nature. It is not something which comes to me automatically, unless of course I learn it, which I haven't done so far. I will also give another example. When I was in SSC, I wanted to do engineering, but I did not get the marks which are required for me to go into a science college. So I had to end up going to commerce college. Engineering was a fancy because everybody who used to get first class and distinction will go to engineering. So engineering was the fancy as a school child. But when I went to commerce, I realized that my natural propensity is for commerce. Every subject in commerce I was good at. So without realizing my natural propensity, as a child I was looking at engineering, because that when you get first class, when you get that kind of marks, you should be going to engineering. So that is born out of fancy. So slowly and gradually with this effort, the agitation which is there in the mind because of these fancies will go away and the mind will quieten. So with determination that we have, the mind gets established in that higher principle and nothing else. Jagjit Singh song comes to my mind which is very apt for this. सरकती जाए है रुख से नकाब आहिस्ता आहिस्ता निकलता रहा है आफताब आहिस्ता आहिस्ता. Aftab meaning sun. The sun comes gradually as the clouds of our own imagination, our doubts, etc. start moving away. The light comes on us. This is what this song very aptly conveys. Now, every creative activity that we do, every creative activity in nature itself is slow. Sunrise is slow. Sunset is slow. A flower blooming is slow. It is a gradual process. Likewise, the mind also gradually gets over these limitations. It becomes creative. It becomes steady. Then it happens. And the higher reality becomes one with you. So the important thing that we need to understand is to remain consistent and steadfast. Each of our minds gets diverted by different things. Whatever is that thing which is diverting us, with slow effort, we have to bring it back to that point of contemplation which we were doing. That is what we need to understand. Because what is the nature of the mind? The nature of the mind is to associate itself with one thought after the other. Now, for example, I am sitting for meditation and in front of me there is a picture of Lord Krishna. I see that picture of Krishna. As I am seeing it, then I close my eyes. When I close my eyes, after some time the thought comes, oh, that Krishna's face resembles my school friend Shashi's face. Oh my God, that picture, oh, it resembles Shashi's. Then suddenly another thought comes. Shashi had a crush on a girl called Prema. Oh, she was in class. Oh, Shashi had a crush on Prema. Oh, yeah, and Prema lived in Bandra, isn't it? Next thought. Next thought. Prakash, another friend of mine, used to travel by the same bus with her. And then I say, nowadays I'm not traveling by BST bus at all. Because I have a car. Oh, then I said, oh, I have a Skoda. Next thought. Are Sunil, another friend of mine in college, he had an ambassador. So if you really look at it, this thought process goes on. Linking of thoughts and associating them with some past memory, which is mostly irrelevant now. That is the fanciful nature of our own mind. The moment it derails from the original thought was that I have to sit on a point of contemplation, which was Krishna. Learn to bring it back to that point of contemplation. So if my point of contemplation is Krishna, he is still standing there. He is not gone anywhere. I went away somewhere and I am coming back. If my point of contemplation is the breath which is hitting my upper lip, and then suddenly I went into all these fanciful thoughts, I have to bring it back. Otherwise, the next thought that will come is that I am in that ambassador car and Krishna is the driver of that car. This is the nature of the mind. This is how it will start going from one place to another. Like that flowing river which is just keeping on flowing, these thoughts also continuously keep on flowing. Sunidhi Chauhan song comes to my mind. बहता है मन कहीं कहाँ जानती नहीं कोई रोक ले यहीं भागे रे मन कहीं आगे रे मन चला जाने किधर जानू ना. This is what happens. It just runs. We don't know what is happening. It runs after the other, one after the other. So then how do I understand what is my borrowed desire? For example, I am habitually used to drinking coffee in the morning. So morning I have one coffee, then we go for a walk, come back and have another coffee. This is habitual. Now when I go to office, this is a natural practice. So this is naturally, it comes to me, naturally it is happening. I go to office, somebody comes to meet me. And then you'll have coffee or tea? He says, I'll have coffee. Acha, theek hai, do coffee leke aao. No, I don't need a coffee. But I have a coffee now because somebody else has come. Then sometime I'm working seriously for 2 hours and suddenly I'm feeling a little exhausted. I'll tell the peon, arey, coffee leke aao. Now what happens is, these are those coffees which are coming out of my passing fancy. I did not need to have this third coffee with my client just because he will feel offended. I never asked him. So this is what happens to our fanciful nature of the mind. So then how is it that we bring it back? For example, we started off by saying that, focus on the upper lip. See, observe how the breath is coming and hitting the upper lip. This is what I said. Suddenly my mind went away. Shashi, Prema, Prakash, BST bus, Skoda, Ambassador, came back and start here again. Come back and focus here again. So whenever it wanders from me, this is not an exercise. Whenever you observe that it has gone from where you thought it was and then into some fanciful field of its own imagination, bring it back to where it was. Have you seen a monkey keeping quiet? Ever? We have some monkeys coming here outside our flat. Many of them, 15, 20, just they come and keep jumping. They're never quiet. They're climbing on the TV cable, they're climbing on the grill, they're climbing on somebody's car, anything that they do. So this is the nature of the mind. Mind is a monkey. So, but don't blame yourself. This is the nature of the mind. Understand that this is the nature of the mind and then learn to climb over it step by step. Gradually what will happen is the mind finds happiness in quietening itself. That 1 minute that we did a little while earlier, the mind finds happiness in quietening itself. That is the place from where meditation itself establishes direction. So the work at quietening the mind is an important starting point in the process of meditation itself. Now doubt will come. Will you do any work if you don't know what you are going to get out of doing that work? I tell you to do something or you tell me to do something. Will I do it if I don't know what I am going to get out of it? So it is our nature to seek reward or compensation for any work or effort that we put in. Normal. Then why should I quieten my mind? What is my gain in my effort in that direction? Obvious question. So when you experience that flood of joy, that happiness, when the mind is quietened, all that we do in our life, everything that we do, in every relationship, every work that we do, it is all for more and more happiness. So when you achieve that flood of joy in a quiet mind, you are in the seventh heaven. That is the reward that you get. Now I can give you this in an example. Some of you may have gone to Shabarimala, the temple in Kerala. Some of you may have gone to Shikharji. Some of you may have gone to Vaishno Devi. They are all, I went to Kailash Mansarovar. They are all on top of the mountain. Now when you are climbing the mountain to reach that place, reach the summit, your entire effort, because your body may or may not be able to withstand. So your mind is a little unsure. But your intellect is saying, yes, I have to go there. With this process, you keep on climbing. In the climbing process itself, your entire energy, mental, physical, as well as intellectual energy is spent in your climbing. And when you reach there on the top, there is a flood of joy that comes to you for a moment. This is exactly what happens to you when you are in this process. So the moment we recognize this identity of this highest principle in ourselves, we also realize one more thing. And that is that every other being in the world, not only me, every other being in the world is the same principle, expressing through their different personality. We understand this because I also felt it. So my neighbor also would have felt it, who is my friend. The other person whom I don't know, who is a stranger, he also would have felt it. Everybody would have felt the same way. So that the principle to everybody is the same. The moment you know that electricity is the same principle which is expressing through the light, through the fan, through the computer that I'm using, I know that none of these can function without electricity. The wave that I'm seeing in the ocean is because of the ocean. The ornament that I'm seeing is because of the gold. The dreamer that I'm experiencing is because of the waker that is me. So none of these will exist without the original principles. So now there is a question that will come. Others may not believe what I am saying because they have not experienced, but you have experienced, isn't it? So even when you see that you have experienced, even though the others may not have experienced, you know that they are in the same journey. You have come one step forward. They are just behind you. So this path itself is the destination. A song comes to my mind, Hemant Kumar's song, राह बनी खुद मंजिल पीछे रह गई मुश्किल साथ जो आए तुम. So when you climb this together, the path itself becomes the destination and all the difficulties remain behind you. So once you recognize this principle as the highest operating principle through everyone, you can never be separated from the highest at all times, nor does that principle separate from you. I will explain this now with another slide which you will understand a little better. Now this is, we all know, simple physics exercise that we learnt in school. Sunlight is coming from somewhere. It is hitting a prism. Now that prism is refracting that light, sunlight, dispersing it, and in the form of a Vibgyor, it is hitting the opposite side, maybe a wall, maybe a screen, whatever it is. Now this, what is coming in as sunlight is that highest principle, that Om principle, the consciousness that we are talking about. That highest reality is coming as a direct beam of light. Now depending on what is the nature of our prism is our body, mind and intellect. The three corners of the prism are the body, the mind and the intellect, our own apparatus. The moment that is hitting through our apparatus, the kind of experiences that come to us, that is what we get reflected. But if that light was never there, these experiences would never have come. Now for a moment, just imagine that this prism is removed. The prism is no longer there. That principle will directly hit the whatever is the surface that we are talking about, whether it is a wall, whether it is a screen. So the experience will be direct of that principle and that principle alone. So this is what we mean by saying that we need to use our body, mind and intellect to climb over our own body, mind and intellect and understand that experience in its entire purity. This is what we are talking about. Now if I have understood physics, this is of course a physics exercise, I can understand and enjoy a seminar presentation on physics. Likewise, if I know cricket, I can watch a cricket match. If I know pottery, I can go to a pottery exhibition. If I know accountancy, I can work in an office where as an accountant. So similarly, once I have known or recognized this highest principle which is operating through me, I can understand that the same principle is operating through everybody else. Once I know this, then I am the greatest yogi. Because I will then start working for the joy of others, for the happiness of others, through my own happiness. Obviously, a doubt will spring within us that the mind is always turbulent. It never remains calm. None of our minds is ever calm. So it's like a strong wind which is blowing continuously. So that is the nature of the mind. It is almost impossible to make it quiet. And then having to make it quiet, we have to contemplate and attain this state, this yogic state that we are talking about. So this doubt obviously will come in our minds. This doubt came in the mind of Arjuna also. That is what was the last two verses of the earlier audio that I played. So now I am going to play verse 35 to 47, which is towards the end of chapter 6. And then we will deal with how to manage this mind.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha असंशयं महाबाहो मनो दुर्निग्रहं चलम् अभ्यासेन तु कौन्तेय वैराग्येण च गृह्यते असंयतात्मना योगो दुष्प्राप इति मे मतिः वश्यात्मना तु यतता शक्यो वाप्तुमुपायतः अर्जुन उवाच अयति श्रद्धयोपेतो योगाच्चलितमानसः अप्राप्य योगसंसिद्धिं कां गतिं कृष्ण गच्छति कच्चिन्नो भयविभ्रष्टश्छिन्नाभ्रमिव नश्यति अप्रतिष्ठो महाबाहो विमूढो ब्रह्मणः पथि एतन्मे संशयं कृष्ण छेत्तुमर्हस्य शेषतः त्वदन्यः संशयस्यास्य चेत्ता न ह्युपपद्यते श्रीभगवानुवाच पार्थ नैवेह नामुत्र विनाशस्तस्य विद्यते न हि कल्याणकृत् कश्चित् दुर्गतिं तात गच्छति प्राप्य पुण्यकृतां लोकानुषित्वा शाश्वतीः समाः शुचीनां श्रीमतां गेहे योगभ्रष्टोऽभिजायते अथवा योगिनामेव कुले भवति धीमताम् एतद्धि दुर्लभतरं लोके जन्म यदीदृशम् तत्र तं बुद्धिसंयोगं लभते पौर्वदेहिकम् यतते च ततो भूयः संसिद्धौ कुरु नन्दन पूर्वाभ्यासेन तेनैव ह्रियते ह्यवशोऽपि सः जिज्ञासुरपि योगस्य शब्दब्रह्माति वर्तते प्रयत्नाद्यतमानस्तु योगी संशुद्धकिल्बिषः अनेकजन्म संसिद्धस्ततो याति परां गतिम् तपस्विभ्योऽधिको योगी ज्ञानिभ्योऽपि मतोऽधिकः कर्मिभ्यश्चाधिको योगी तस्माद्योगी भवार्जुन योगिनामपि सर्वेषां मद्गतेनान्तरात्मना श्रद्धावान् भजते यो मां समे युक्ततमो मतः ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे आत्मसंयमयोगो नाम षष्ठोऽध्यायः।
The nature of the mind itself is like that monkey I told you a little while ago. No matter whether you chain it, no matter whether you cage it, the mind will keep wandering. That is its nature. So how can that mind remain quiet? Quietness can happen only through practice. You need to keep on doing it as and when. As you start doing it, gradually you will master it. I will share a slide to understand this nature of this monkey. Now this is the nature of the monkey. Jumping around, going into wherever it likes, sometimes not knowing what it has to do, sometimes stealing somebody's food. This is the nature of the mind, exactly like this monkey. It is just running helter-skelter. But this monkey can be tamed. How do you tame it? The person to tame it is a Madari. Now what the Madari does? The Madari trains the monkey, and whatever the Madari tells him and plays the dugdugi and keeps that stick in his hand, the monkey will obey. Who is the Madari in this? The Madari is our intellect. In our intellect, we must first have the determination, like that rope in the hand of the Madari. The determination that the mind has to be brought, I'm not saying suppressed, the mind has to be brought under control. A suppressed mind will express itself later, in whatever manner it wants. Suppression is not the way. We need to bring it under our control by determination. So this is the exercise that we need to do constantly, and that is how we will grow over our own existing agitated status of the mind. But sometimes it is very difficult for the intemperate monkey, no matter what the Madari tries, no matter what your intellect you may try, because it keeps on running after one desire after the other. So first, such a person needs to arrest this running nature after each desire, jumping from one place to another. I'll give you an example. Let's say that my office is in Fountain, Bombay Fountain area. Evening, a friend of mine comes, and then we decide we are going to have beer at Irish pub, which is in Fort. We go from there to Irish pub, we have beer. Then we say, no, we are going to have our food at Bademia. From there we go to Taj near Taj Hotel, go to Bade Mian, we want to have our food there. Then we say, no, I want to now have ice cream at Haji Ali Ice Cream Center. From there we go to Haji Ali and then we have ice cream at Haji Ali Ice Center. Now we say, no, we want to have coffee at Starbucks. So we go to Worli, we have coffee at Starbucks. Then we say, no, we want to have pan at Muchadwala somewhere in Bedar Road or someplace. I go back to. So what happens is, from one place to another, I'm jumping because one desire after the other keeps on springing when I'm doing one thing or the other. And then finally, when I land up home, I have a gastric problem and I need to have medication for 3 days. So this is the nature. So this arresting of such a mind is the first thing which is required. Now a doubt comes. A person who is unable to tame this intemperate nature of the mind, which is running after one desire or the other, what will happen to him? Intellectually, I am able to understand. I am ready to work. I am ready to practice on myself. But my discriminative intellect is probably not powerful enough to manage this running nature of my mind. I cannot arrest this wandering nature of the mind. What will happen to me? So, the question that again will come to me is, I have learned this wonderful way of life. You know, what kind of beauty it is. I am intellectually able to understand the benefits of this. I am also willing and I am also actively working to grow higher. But just because I am unable to control this wavering nature of the mind, will all my understanding, will all my effort at growing higher be wasted, and I will be destroyed like a summer cloud. What a summer cloud does, in summer what happens is, we are expecting, because of the heat, we are expecting the rain to come. Anytime the rain will come, anytime the rain will come. And suddenly when you are walking, you see a black cloud. You say, no, today it is going to rain. Today it is going to rain. Everybody is waiting, oh, today it is going to rain. Suddenly a whiff of wind comes and that cloud is taken away. It may have gone over Arabian Sea and rained there, we don't know, but then it is gone. So till the monsoon clouds really come in the month of June, this kind of thing is happening. That summer clouds keeps on, it keeps promising rain, but then it is moved away by the wind. I am reminded of the similar scene from that movie Lagan. Remember, everybody is waiting for rain to come and they are looking for that black cloud, and that the black cloud will come and suddenly wind will take it away. And that there is a song also in that. That is what I am reminded of here. Ghanan ghanan ghan gir aaye badra, ghan ghan gor kar chai badra, धमक धमक गूंजे बदरा के डंके, चमक चमक देखो बिजुरिया चमके, मन धड़काए बदरवा, मन धड़काए बदरवा, मन मन धड़काए बदरवा. This is what happens. Now, obviously then the doubt is, will I be like that dobi ka kutta, na ghar ka na ghat ka? I left all my desires, those which are coming out of my fancy. I did not go to Irish pub. I did not go to Haji Ali. I did not go to Muchhad Panwala. I did not do any of that. And I am trying to do this and I am not able to climb over this because the mind still keeps jumping around like a monkey. So I am neither here nor there. Dhobi ka kutta na ghar ka na ghat ka. Can't enjoy the joys that come to me because I have given up my desires, and I can't grow higher because of my own limitations. It is very important to remember that how can good work be wasted? It is impossible that there will be no reward for all my good work. I do a lot of good work. How can there be no reward for that? In whatever manner I do any good, any meritorious work, in whatever field I am engaged in, that work will yield positive results to the extent that I have done that work. Now, how much I have done, how much you have done, we don't know. Whatever I have done, to the extent I have done, I will get those results. Of course, to the extent that I have failed, to the extent that I have made mistakes or I have erred, I will have to suffer the consequences also. There is no judgment seat. There is nobody who is going to sit on a judgment that whether my effort is sufficient, not sufficient, whether I failed, whether I erred. There is nobody to sit on a judgment. I will be punished by my own sin. For example, there is a 11,000 kV line which is running across my building, and I suddenly get a big bold, I am bindas, I have understood everything about life. I will go and touch that 11,000 kV volt. What will happen? I will be burnt to ashes. So by my own sin, I will be punished. Nobody else is going to be punished. Nobody else is going to be punished. So whatever good that I do, I will get the benefit of that, because the cause is always in the past and the effect is in the present. So the present effect which I am enjoying is definitely determined by the cause which happened in the past. The effect is nothing but the cause itself, which is in a modified form. So my good deeds will bear the effect in future, that is for sure. And for every bad deed that I did now, the future result will throw a spanner in my own works. So there is a beautiful poem written by a poet, a few lines written by a poet. Sow a thought, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny. So whatever thoughts I will sow in my mind, that is what is going to become my habit. And whatever habits I start developing, that will become my character. And whatever character that I develop, on the basis of that is what my destiny is going to be. So my destiny today is emerging from a thought process that I sowed myself in the past. So my destiny in future will happen from the habits that I cultivate now. I will give you an example. In villages, there used to be what is called a rice barrel. So whatever paddy was developed in the field, the rice used to be put into a barrel. And under the barrel, there used to be a small tap sort of a thing. So whatever you need for cooking, you open the tap, take as much rice as you want, close it and go cook it. Now imagine for a moment that rice is being poured and then you're taking rice every day. Suddenly now, one day, you start putting pebbles into that barrel. And then you open. What will happen? Rice will come because the rice was already there. Then after a few days, you start putting rice again. And then you open, what will come? Pebbles will come because in between you put pebbles there. Exactly like this, whatever good that you sow, in time that good will reap its result. Whatever bad that you sow, in time that result also will come. So, question that comes to my mind is then, doing this, what if I die? I have not corrected my mind sufficiently to realize the highest. And what if I die in between? I have done a lot of work, but I died. What do I do? So there is no need to despair. Because having done your good deeds here, whatever you did now, you will return here, aided by the same good deeds, in the surroundings that are conducive to exhaust your remaining desires and grow higher and realize the highest. This is a journey. So whatever you do, even if you go, you will come back in a different form, with in a different surrounding, which are conducive to you for exhausting your own good deeds that you did, tendencies that you developed, imprints that you created. There was a devotee of Krishna by name Ajamila. It's a story in Bhagavatam. Now Ajamila was a very good, he did a lot of good work. He was a good devotee, etc., etc. In between he went into bad times, bad ways, etc. Then suddenly, as he was about to die, he probably wanted to tell his family about some gold or something he must have hidden, hiding it from somebody or etc., etc. So he called out his son. Son's name was Narayana. He called Narayana and he died. Now, it seems the story says that Narayana heard him call at the time of his death and Narayana took him away to heaven. This is the story. Now, what really this means is that whatever good he did in the past made him call out his son's name unknowingly, because he was calling out the Lord at the time of his death. This is the message which is given. So whatever it is a journey in which whatever good you have done, it will have its own benefits whenever you return. So whenever you return, मैं वापस आऊँगा. There is a song which comes from the movie Border. मैं वापस आऊँगा, मैं वापस आऊँगा, फिर अपने गाँव में उसी की छाँव में, कि माँ के आंचल से, गाँव के पीपल से, किसी के काजल से, किया जो आधा था वो मैं निभाऊंगा. So you will come back to do whatever it is that you got to do in the beginning. So now there are three ways in which we can die: old age, disease, or accident. So at the time of my departure, my desire for realizing the higher principle, the higher reality, the mind and intellect that I have will choose a proper surrounding to return and continue this effort in reaching that higher reality. Because you remember I mentioned last time about these prodigies like Shankaracharya, Mozart, etc. And we said, how is it that they became prodigies? They became, it is rare to get such a birth. Obviously, it is very rare to get such a birth. But then it is because of the past that they had accumulated, that they needed to come in the surroundings in which they were, to come and exhaust whatever was their knowledge that they had and benefit mankind from their work. One by music, another by knowledge. So having returned into this world again, the intellect which is there from the previous body will inspire me to veer myself towards that knowledge and grow higher. Now, for example, I gave you the example of my own schooling. Parents are saying, no, 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 you should go to maths. The child says, no, I want to go to medicine. The child says, I want to go to physics. The parent says, no, you want to pursue music. So this kind of conflict which keeps happening. But finally, the individual chooses that towards which that child is veered towards. Sometimes it so happens that under parental pressure, the child is put into medical school. The child is not at all interested in medical school. After 1 year, he says, no, 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 I am coming back. I want to pursue my music. This has happened to many people. So we need to understand that that is happening because there is already some stored tendencies, imprints in them, and that they are veering towards by their natural choice. That is what is happening. But the beauty is that there is no memory of the past. The inclination stays in the form of our imprints, but there is no memory, because if the memory was there, we will all be confused. Even if we remember what is happening in our life now, it becomes so dangerous for us. So when you hear or see something for the first time, there is a sense of identification or apparent past invisible knowledge of that subject. It is because of such past imprints that we carry on from where we left off. Now we are talking, I am talking, you are listening. Your understanding of what I am saying now and how is it that you are relating to what I am saying is because there are certain past imprints in me and you, which is manifesting in your coming here and my being here because of your own curiosity. Because in this path, आदमी मुसाफिर है, आता है जाता है, आते जाते रस्ते में यादें छोड़ जाता है. So having come here, whatever we have carried from the past, it gets sharpened by our own consistent effort, and the practice that we do now. And gradually what will happen is all the negativities that we have, they all get purified, they get released from our past conditioning. Otherwise, how can you explain the fact that two sons of the same parents, one child says, I am looking after my parents till their old age, whereas the other thinks that the moment I become an adult, I want to get rid of these people and I want to go away and become independent. How can you justify that? They were brought up similarly, they had the same upbringing, same love, everything. How can you differentiate between these two? This is the only reason. So this past that we are carrying is not from one life. It is from an accumulation of many, many, many such past lives. Not from something that we can remember. As I said, we have no memory. So there is nothing like a magic. It is a continuous self-effort through which we have grown from one step to the other, and this life is just one journey that we have. So such a person who is working through contemplation and to reach that state of meditation, he is better than even the sannyasis who are roaming around saying that they are self-proclaimed men of God. They are better than the greatest of great scholars. They are bigger than the biggest men of action, because they are working towards understanding that highest reality which is making everything work. So among such people also, the greatest one is the one who is reaching the highest reality, recognizing this highest reality as the only truth, and lovingly share it and benefit others in the world. They are also nothing but this highest, manifesting through their own individual personality, just like his own distinct personality. So I am now trying to cover briefly this entire understanding of this meditation as we understand. Basically, how do we contemplate and try to reach that higher? As I said last time also, I have tried to put all of these into nutshells of understanding. Each of them, they are a subject by themselves. Each thought is a subject by themselves. And if you have to take it, we can take it in a much larger canvas and discuss it far more. That is not probably today. That is probably for another occasion on another platform we will do it. Now as we move ahead, you will understand that I have not used the word God anywhere. I started when we spoke about the highest reality. Initially, I said God. I have not used the word God anywhere in mentioning the highest reality. We spoke about electricity being that power which is generating every apparatus, etc. We spoke about the ocean on which all the waves rest. We spoke about the gold in which all the ornaments are resting. They are all simile to indicate that God. They are indicators that lead us to the indicated, which is the God principle. So we use these similes, we use these indicators to understand what is that God principle, to understand what is that God. I will share one more slide in this connection for you to know this. I started off by talking about how that rocket is launched and how each of those apparatuses are thrown away so that the rocket can go higher into the space. Having reached space, what happens is even the last part of the rocket, it releases the satellite into the space, and that rocket also they can retract it back. There is some process where they now say that they can retract it back. So if we now understand our body, mind and intellect as the apparatus which is putting us into that space, the satellite is an observer. If you see the satellite, the job of a satellite is to observe the space and give data for us here for us to benefit. We are watching a lot of TV, hot stars, this star, that star, all those things. There are satellites from where they borrow their signal feeds. So the satellite is the observer and we are the observed. So when we climb over our own body, mind and intellect apparatus and reach that stage, we become the observer of our own apparatus. This is what we are talking about, is the concept of understanding the highest reality. So what we will do now is that thus far we have understood from our body, our mind, our intellect, how we must work, how we must think, how we must feel, how we must act. This is up to chapter 6. Now chapter 7, 8 and 9, they deal with this identification of this God principle through certain exercises, and that we can pursue with our intellect and grow higher. So I will dwell on them in our future sessions. I will wind up for now. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you and wish you all a nice weekend. Yatindraji, thank you very much.
Hari Om.
Hari
Suresh
Om.
bhai.
Hari Om. Hari Om.